Next news. Breaking news from the White House.
Tonight, the anti-ICE narrative is blowing up in the left's face. President Trump is tightening the screws on the money pipelines behind illegal immigration. A cross-border tunnel turns up near San Diego with lighting and ventilation. A suspect accused of ramming ICE agents gets indicted. Another alleged anti-ICE rider accused of biting a federal officer. And then comes the moment that completely wrecks the media script. Tom Homan personally walked into Delaney Hall, sat down with detainees, and ate the exact same meal they were served. So why were Democrats still pushing a hunger strike story that appears to be falling apart? Now, this matters because the fight over immigration is no longer just about the borderline on a map. It's about whether the United States remains a sovereign nation, whether law enforcement can do its job, and whether activists and Democrat politicians can manufacture outrage to obstruct deportations and detention. The Trump administration is making clear that the era of excuses is over. Dr. Oz, now serving at CMS, says California was told that it owes the federal government $2 billion after illegal immigrants were allowed to tap taxpayer-funded health care programs. He says half has already been recovered. At the same time, Mexican authorities found an 869-foot tunnel in Tijuana, likely reaching towards San Diego, complete with lighting and ventilation. That's the kind of infrastructure cartels build when they think that the system is weak. That weakness was tolerated during the Biden administration. Under President Trump, the message is the exact opposite. Enforce the law, defend the homeland, and back the agents on the front lines no matter how loud the left screams. And while we're talking about restoring strength and function where it matters, I need to tell you about something that caught my attention in a very personal way. Now, you've probably seen the clip, Joe Rogan sitting with Mel Gibson talking about people close to him who went through serious health struggles and then saw dramatic turnarounds. Rogan brings up light-based therapies and how they impact the body at the cellular level. Mel Gibson just says it straight. This stuff works, and that got my attention. In my own life, I watched something very similar when my wife dealt with constant discomfort and anxiety for too long. And that's why Jonathan Otto's red light therapy approach stood out to me. And if you want to learn more, go to myredlight.com. See what options may fit your routine and use NNN25 for individual items or NNN30 for bundles. It's simple, it's non-invasive, and worth a very serious look for recovery, energy, and overall wellness. Now back to a story where the facts are finally breaking through the activist noise. Because here's the part the corporate press just can't spin away. See, this is not just about rhetoric anymore. It's about crimes. It's about cash. But most importantly, it's about consequences. President Trump has now announced a powerful executive order aimed at stopping banks, credit cards, and financial institutions from being used to facilitate human smuggling, drug trafficking, illegal immigration, and cartel operations. In other words, the Trump administration is not only arresting the foot soldiers, it's going after the financial arteries that keep the invasion machine alive. And once you see the posts, video tied to Delaney Hall, the whole Democrat storyline gets even shakier. So Tom Homan reveals he personally went inside Delaney Hall ICE facility to eat the food himself, confirming leftists are lying about the hunger strike. Listen.
Like I said, we addressed that in New Jersey, and we got local law enforcement, state law enforcement to finally do their public safety job. But we got to remember what started all this. You got Democratic lawmakers on Memorial Day making false allegations about the facility, about the food, the medical care, hunger strikes. I went into that facility. I went to the medical. I went to outdoor recreation, indoor recreation. I even made a surprise visit this weekend and walked into the cafeteria and ate the same meal that the detainees around me were eating. And I made sure my tray equaled their tray. I had spaghetti and meat sauce. I had beans. I had green beans. I had bread and rolls. I had drinks. I had dessert. The food was good. It's all a false premise. There was never a hunger strike. The congressman said, oh, people are on hunger strikes. No, they weren't. They may not be eating in the cafeteria, but what I found out, they're ordering food from the commissary and eating in their cells. So there wasn't any abuse. It's not inhumane conditions. I went to the entire facility. I ate the same meal they ate. That facility is well run, and the governor keeps saying she's going to keep raising hell if that facility shuts down. Well, I got news for the governor. That facility isn't going anywhere. We're going to enforce the law. We're going to detain people, and we're going to remove people. Matter of fact, a lot of the people in that facility, we couldn't release because they're mandatorily detained by federal statute. So we couldn't release them if we even wanted to. But we're not going to release any of them. Everybody in that facility I have ascertained is legally being detained.
Legally being detained. Homan blowing up the Delaney Hall hunger strike story by walking in and eating the same tray himself. Now Congressman Brandon Gill takes it wider, giving ICE and Border Patrol full-throated credit for protecting American neighborhoods. Listen.
ICE and Border Patrol are on the front lines of not only defending American sovereignty, but keeping our communities safe and ensuring that murderers and rapists and gangbangers are not running loose within our neighborhoods. These are the guys who are making sure that America stays America, that it is a place where we can raise our kids safely and in communities that are conducive to American flourishing. And we're so thankful for the work you guys have done.
So the point is simple. These agents are the line between order and chaos. And in Chicago, one man alleged to try to ram ICE officers with an SUV is now facing the kind of charges that make the message clear. Libs of TikTok reports that Diego Emmanuel Reyes, who was caught on camera, you can see right here, ramming his SUV into ICE agents during Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, has now been indicted on charges including assaulting ICE with a deadly and dangerous weapon. And now he's learning what it means to FAFO. Yeah. Next time, you may want to just keep it in park, buddy. So the indictment shows what happens when attacks on ICE meet real consequences. Back at Delaney Hall, DHS says one violent ICE rider with a sick criminal past allegedly bit an officer is being prosecuted to the fullest extent. This is from Homeland Security. This violent rider, who has a criminal history that includes distributing CP, savagely bit an ICE law enforcement officer outside of Delaney Hall. Trump administration will always stand with our law enforcement officers. Anyone who assaults law enforcement will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, just like this monster. Let me see if I can get the attachment to that post. Okay, here is the actual post itself. This is the arrest, and look at that. Disgusting. I think we can get a better shot here. This is actually from the New York Post. They were quote tweeting. Anti-ICE agitator allegedly bit officers during the protest, previously accused of distributing that. Okay. So as you can tell, President Trump is not holding back with his agency there. So while the left cries abuse at detention centers, people assaulting officers are the one piling up the criminal charges. And now we have Dr. Oz shifting to the policy fight. Oz says Trump's tax cut law is also shutting off taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants. This is from the press briefing room where Dr. Oz was filling in for Caroline Leavitt, who is on maternity leave. Listen.
Well, we are tracking illegal immigrants taking advantage of all health care plans. We've already recouped, or we've actually told California they owe us $2 billion. We've got half of it back already. I'm confident we'll get the rest because they have state-based programs that we don't have a lot of visibility into, but because of the Working Families Tax Cut legislation and other rulemaking, we are no longer allowing foreign folks who are here illegally to benefit from these programs. And just to put it in context, in California, if you're on Medi-Cal, the Medicaid program in California, until this administration, you got full dental and full vision benefits. Now, I'm for those benefits. I like them, but we don't give that to Medicare patients. And so we should at least be equitable, and all of us together should decide what we are going to do as a nation. So if we as a country decide we're going to go in one direction, you can't have states splintering off if they're going to spend the other people's money. The fraud, for example, that I'm talking about, and the use of money for illegal immigrants, the people who pay that bill when it, for example, the largesse of California allows folks to get benefits that the rest of the country doesn't think is appropriate for illegal immigrants or home health care providers, that money's paid by folks who are taxpayers in New Mexico, which is a blue state, and Mississippi, a red state. So this is not partisan. Everybody is taxed extra and has to put more into the kitty because some states are doing things that we don't think as a country, well, we would like to have happen. That's why this administration has been so dogged in this issue and why the president has been so aggressive.
Wow, he just nailed it. Bigger crackdown. Fewer benefits, less fraud. No more blank checks for people here illegally, and the border threat's real. Mexican authorities uncovering an 869-foot tunnel near San Diego built for trafficking. ABC News on this one.
Shocking new video shows a cross-border tunnel in Tijuana that likely connects all the way to a well-known street in San Diego. This tunnel is about 870 feet long, 21 feet deep, and has operational infrastructure, including lighting and ventilation. Mexican authorities found the tunnel while they were carrying out a search at a residence looking for firearms and explosives. Officials say that the property may have been used as a storage, logistics, and trafficking center for weapons, explosives, and other substances. DHS says it will conduct an investigation.
They even have like a little train car so they don't have to crawl and hurt their little knees. Unbelievable. But that's a perfect picture of what open border insanity creates. Organized pipelines for crime, which brings us back to Newark. Mayor Ras Baraka still pushing to shut Delaney Hall down, despite DHS calling the whole thing political theater. Andrew Colvette writes, the New York Mayor Ras Baraka claimed Delaney Hall should be shut down because there's actual irrefutable evidence the place is uninhabitable. And I think that Tom Homan just broke that narrative.
Making a new push to shut down this facility. How is this time, this expanding of the lawsuit, how is this going to be different this time?
Well, the first time our argument was based on the code enforcement, UCC, our inability to have access to the facility, saying that some of the conditions may be inoperable and it should be shut down because they didn't go through the normal procedures. Right now, we have a letter from detainees that speaks specifically and outlines some of the conditions there. So we actually have plaintiffs. We have the health department from the state and our health department demanded access and was denied access to these facilities. So we're expanding it now on the health and human conditions that are in there. And we believe that it should be shut down because we have actual irrefutable evidence now that the place is uninhabitable.
Yeah, I think Tom Homan broke that narrative real quick. Keep selling the same story, Baraka, but the facts keep wrecking. President Trump escalating the fight with a new executive order aimed at banks and financial networks that help fuel illegal immigration and cartel activity. In a quite lengthy post on Truth Social, President Trump had this to say. Let me bring it up for you. Illegal immigrants and foreign fraudsters stealing billions every year from the American taxpayer. As part of my administration's historic effort to end fraud and reverse mass illegal immigration, I recently signed a powerful new executive order which will be led by the Treasury Department to stop banks, credit cards, and financial institutions from being used to facilitate human smuggling, drug trafficking, illegal immigration, and the criminal cartels who orchestrate these activities. Access to our nation's financial systems must be limited to those who have a legal right to be here and who are engaged in lawful and legitimate commerce. Bank accounts being used to enable illegal immigration or to store the welfare received by illegal aliens will be shut down, and funds will ultimately face impoundment and seizure so they can be returned to taxpayers. It is not ludicrous but profoundly dangerous that any illegal alien can simply present a blue state driver's license or Biden border document and have unrestricted access to the U.S. financial system. This also sends a clear message to the anti-ICE rioters that your violent disruptions are only strengthening our resolve. My executive order will also allow us to stop billions in leaving our country in all manner of criminal activity, It has been said that this measure we are taking is the most effective means of reversing Biden's border invasion. We shall soon find out, President Donald J. Trump. So what this really means is quite simple. The anti-ICE movement is being exposed as a protection racket for chaos. DHS says that one violent rioter outside Delaney Hall had a criminal history involving CP and is accused of savagely biting an ICE officer in Chicago. Diego Emmanuel Reyes has now been indicted after ramming his SUV into ICE agents during Operation Midway Blitz. These are not peaceful truth tellers. These are the kinds of people attacking the very officers trying to remove the predators, the gang members, and public threats from our communities. Then Tom Homan himself walks into Delaney Hall, tours the facility, inspects medical and recreation areas, eats the same tray as detainees. Spaghetti and meat sauce, beans, green beans, bread, drinks, dessert. His verdict, the food was good. The so-called hunger strike was bogus. And that's why this moment, why it matters so much. President Trump is keeping his promise to restore sovereignty, shut off fraud, and stand with the men and women who protect this country. While the Newark Mayor Ras Baraka pushes claims that Delaney Hall is uninhabitable, DHS says detainees receive the meals, the medical care, the bedding, recreation, and access to family and lawyers. And Tom Homan did what almost no politician on the left would ever dare to do. He showed up, looked for himself, and put the narrative to the test. Meanwhile, conservatives like Congressman Brandon Gill, they're saying what millions of Americans already know. ICE and Border Patrol are on the front lines making sure America stays America. If you're tired of the lies and you're tired of the excuses and proud to see the Trump administration finally backing law enforcement with action, share this report, subscribe to the channel, comment below. Yes or no, should every politician caught smearing ICE with false claims be forced to answer for it publicly? That's a conversation that we need to have. We also need to have you text the words raw feed to that secret number on the screen that I set up just for you. Thousands of patriots have already done that. They are bypassing the algorithmic suppression. They're getting the notifications that they're waiting for but never arrive. They're getting them from me instead. I won't let you down when the algorithm decides otherwise. Text raw feed 844-840-4963 and celebrate America 250 with us. Check out the merch shelf below this video or at the link and find something you like, and let's celebrate together.
The system controls information. Information control is power. I want you to see this. The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.